Nostalgia is a magical force. It allows you to relive the experience of a younger you, a more freer you. While you lacked the capital to do things you wanted, you at least had the time to do it. And through these cartoons and animes, you lived vicariously through these two-dimensional characters. In some cases, these cartoons shaped your outlook on life, how you treat others, and your general disposition towards life. My name's Moliminous, and this is my top 10 generational defining or genre defining shows in cartoons and anime. Number 10, Pokemon. So Pokemon obviously has to be on this list. It's like the first show that really inspired kids to stay kids and start collecting these colorful Pokemonsters for like well into their 30s and 40s and 50s. There's a lot of old men in this fandom. Probably not a good thing since it's catered towards kids, but hey, age is just a number. And I guess jail is just a place. The adventure of Ash and Pikachu, were the iconic forever 10-year-old journey to be #1, inspired countless spin-offs, games, movies, and other art. Regardless though, even not being into it, I know all my friends were, from merch to the show to the games. Pokemon infested every aspect of people's lives with the theme song that simply inspired individuals to excel until that flame was crushed to them the moment they got a desk job. Number 9, Yu-Gi-Oh! The first gacha to defeat all gachas. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was our generation's magic. It was probably one of the first, if not best, card games to make it to the States from Japan. The stories for the show were also interesting and engaging, given that it was all about playing a children's card game. It was also on air during the days of WB Kids and Saturday morning cartoons. It was something that got us to do something that would be sacrilegious today. Wake up early on a Saturday. Yeah, it had some goofy stuff in it that didn't really make sense, like finger guns, because apparently sending people to the Shadow Realm was okay, but just showing guns on screen, that was a bit too far for these censors. It did get kids to do something that parents have always wanted them to do, actually find math fun and strategy engaging. Yu-Gi-Oh!, despite probably being banned in your school, was probably more educational than most things that were allowed in your schools and would have probably have helped you. Number 8, Shigo. This is literally only on here for me personally. I'm not saying Shigo is responsible for being the archetype of every girl I've ever dated or have been interested in, but she totally is. However, psychosexual analysis aside, Kim Possible was what a lot of shows strive to be today. An inclusive show that can actually cater to both girls and boys while also still being able to uplift girls, showing them that yes, the things that boys do, they can do, and they don't have to give up their femininity to do so. It's a powerful critique on modern views on gender without coming off as one that served an important role in many young people's lives. Even the males, while being bumbling as they are in most feminist-driven shows, actually have a wide breadth to them, an actual arc where they actually become somewhat cool, and even one would say badass. Kim Possible existed in a unique period of time, while being secretly, one could argue, progressive in a time where progressivism wasn't even coined, and coming out from Disney, of all places. And honestly, when the world apparently needed her most, she disappeared, because keeping her in syndication was apparently more profitable than continuing the show. Motherfucker. Number 7, Oban Star-Racers. Old enough now that Dan the Man with the Van Schneider wouldn't even give it a show on Nick. But even with its age, it still shows so many people would regard highly, if they even remembered it. Yeah, this is one of those sadly forgotten shows. A lot of people forget about Oban Star-Racer. But if you bring it up, if you start singing its theme song, there is a sizable amount of people who are instantly hit with a wave of nostalgia. Even when it was first airing on Jetix, one of the best versions of Disney, I knew it was the GOAT. And that was before we had pretentious critics with airsoft guns telling us what to think. This was just me, as the targeted demographic, enjoying a show that was well done. It had an electrifying intro, with a catchy and easy to sing along with chorus. But most importantly, it was one of the first pseudo-animes to exist. And that to me is something people don't appreciate enough. How many times have you been told by your weeb friends clutching their oddly stiff body pillows, commented something like, "I don't watch Western cartoons because you're too kiddie. Western cartoons, they're just not serious enough. Western cartoons, haha, cow arts, insert joke here. I only like anime because it's deep intellectual concepts and storylines, and because the girls have huge fucking eyes." But Oban is French / Japanese, but mostly French.
Oban.
Oban.
And with it, it does everything minus the sexuality that anime does, and has an intricate story that challenges the viewers, and while being targeted to tweens and kids, it doesn't belittle how much they can understand. I've never been into racing animes, I've never been into racing shows. There were a few others like this on Jetix, such as Get and some sort of Hot Wheels show, but this was the first one that I actually enjoyed. And it's kind of the last. I think the only other one would be Immortal Grand Prix, so Oban was kind of the first and last for me. But it did probably open up a genre for other people to get into shows like Initial D and whatever else is out there. Number 6, Cowboy Bebop. A classic, but not just any classic. I mean, a classic. Something you can really sink your teeth into, a childhood show that first introduced a lot of people to the talent of Steve Blum, an iconic voice, and one that when you hear it, you're instantly hit with a wave of nostalgia. This man pretty much played all your favorite male heroes with a deep voice. The gritty reality of a space cowboy mixed with the fluid animation of a combat anime leave you mesmerized. I'm going to cheat and add 2 animes into one here and put Ghost in the Shell in the same vein. They both exude what snobs would call an aura of true animation, and a lot of media animation is cheaped out on because of how expensive it is and time consuming it is. Most animes have a few minutes of actual animation with a lot of loops, panning shots, and standing characters giving dialogue delivery. What I'm saying is, the shit gets boring. But Cowboy Bebop didn't just thrill us by combining 2 things kids wanted to be, an astronaut and a cowboy, and mixed it with animation so smooth it flowed like water. It did that because not only did it do all that, it also took a giant shit on the industry by doing it for about a quarter of the budget, about $198,000 per episode. And to put that in perspective, modern cowl arts or flash animated shows in today's era are about $300,000 per episode. But these are all reasons why the show is iconic, not exactly why it was iconic. I don't think 12-year-old Timmy was there really looking into the animation budget and voice acting talent too closely. Truth is, a lot of people fell in love with the show for superficial reasons, and only later on understood the mastery of the animation and the symbolism behind the storytelling. Kids are stupid, and I know I've said otherwise in this video, but there is a limitation to what your 12-year-old prepubescent mind can understand and actually articulate back to someone. Most of us just saw a cool cowboy, space astronaut, man, bounty hunter, and that was enough buzzwords to get us hooked. Number 5, One Piece. Oh boy, this one is one that would take up pages and pages, because there's just so many fucking novel-length books about One Piece. I think it's on over episode 900 or something, I don't even know. It's too goddamn long. The manga's even longer. I just met Chomper. I'm like episode 70 in here. So I grew up watching this, and this is when Toonami started to first kind of come into shape. Originally it was airing on 4Kids, but I really didn't catch it on there as much as I did when it finally came to Toonami and some of the censorship was removed. And that's when I really started to pay attention to anime. That's when Toonami really started to come into its own, when it actually became something that kids actively tuned into, but it was before Cartoon Network took back some of those shows and rebranded them to be able to be on Cartoon Network proper. There's a lot I could go into on why the show's iconic, from the stylization of the characters, which really hasn't been imitated in a way that's been big in the mainstream as of yet, but it's a very distinctive style. I mean, these waistlines, if you want to talk about unrealistic body proportions for males and females, just look at One Piece. It should be the poster child for all kinds of topics about people's feelings and depictions in media, because you have guys who are just built literally like houses with little twig legs for some reason, girls whose waistlines go into a single dot. I'm not sure why. It feels like a strong breeze would snap these girls in half. The storytelling is filled with a lot of filler, but I mean, you can't get 900 episodes without that. But it's also got a very interesting progression, kind of borrowing from Dragon Ball Z. I'm not exactly sure which came out first, but the power-ups between Luffy and various other characters kind of reminded me of that, and I feel like Dragon Ball did it more iconically. Luffy does have a lot of different things that he goes through. Again, I'm super behind, but even I'm acutely aware of the different gears that he has and different transformations that he has. And so it's kind of one that a lot of shows just will never be able to do because it grew up with us. We didn't just grew up with it and then, you know, look fondly onto it. No, it's still going. Same with Dragon Ball, but One Piece is arguably bigger. But since I've been talking about Dragon Ball, let's go on to number 4, which is, can you guess? It's Dragon Ball, Z, and Super, and all the other ones. But mainly Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. If you expected this though not to be on this list, then you haven't been paying attention to the whole show and anime genre at all, which is made up from the kids that grew up watching this show. I'm a bit younger, but not you kids are almost 30. The cartoons people consume nowadays, a lot of them are made by them. That being said, the concepts of powering up, the animation techniques they use to save money, the thick outlines, the over-the-top vocal delivery, these are all staples in various other shows that started with Dragon Ball. Even the tournament arcs were largely defined through the Dragon Ball series. Honestly, it's filled with filler, just like One Piece, but it just made the anticipation for next week's episode that much higher. I can't watch some of it as an adult now because I have a lot of stuff to do in the day, and I can't sit here waiting every week for another 15 minutes of filler and 15 minutes of story. As a kid, man, it was hype to wait for the next week's episode. I feel like we've lost a little bit of that with people going more to online media platforms, people not really converging into a singular place, maybe even the destruction of the family living room. But these are all social issues that I'm not equipped to really tackle and don't really want to go into right now. Number 3, the Winx Club. So the Winx Club is probably one that you guys actually don't really remember and maybe even didn't really watch. I don't even have anything written down for anything past Dragon Ball here because they're all very close to my heart. The Winx Club was a show that was really aimed towards girls. There's no two ways about it. It was a WB Kids show that was definitely aimed towards girls. It didn't really try, at least in my opinion, to aim towards a gender neutral audience, which is fine. There can be shows targeted to just specific demographics. But this was the first one like this that I actually enjoyed because it was a girl's show, make no mistake about it, but it wasn't a traditional girl's show. It wasn't just makeup and let's accessorize with makeup, but the makeup is deadly, like it totally spies thing. This was just magical girls doing magical girls things in a high school setting, but it wasn't all about boys, it wasn't all about looking pretty, getting a date, finding a man, etc. And so because of that, me as a little boy, I was able to enjoy the show, and it kind of opened that gateway to being able to enjoy things that weren't specifically made with you in mind. It was the gateway drug to being able to like things that ostensibly weren't meant for males or boys or for me, and that kind of allowed me to diversify my taste and what I watched. In fact, if it wasn't for Winx Club, I probably wouldn't be as open as I am to different anime genres that are out there because anime is weird. That's just the fact. Anime is weird. If you show anime to a normal person who doesn't watch anime, those tropes that we take for granted of being just staples and just that's just how anime is, those people will look at you like you're crazy, alright? So you need somewhat of an open mind to already go into an anime series for 99% of it out there. And Winx Club kind of gave me that. It taught me rather not to really judge a book by its cover. Even if the cover is covered in glitter and giant cursive letters and bright pink. Because the show itself is good. And I think it was one of the first really heavily flash utilized shows. It looked just like a bunch of puppet rigs, essentially. Now, it's still going on, which surprised me. I only learned this recently because I haven't watched Winx Club at all. I have no idea if it stayed as good as it was back then. It could be complete ass now, but at least back then it was great. It had a unique animation style, which I bet was probably just to save money, because with most things it was probably a toy farm and most things were probably brought up in the show just so that they can make a toy about it. But speaking of being made simply for toys, number 2. My Little Pony. Yes, that series that this entire channel and all my other channels have been based upon as the foundation. What a majority of you actually subscribed for, but a sizable portion of you for anime and cartoons, which I'm thankful for. That being said, MLP wouldn't have existed without Winx Club, but I think unlike Winx Club, which is kind of regulated to this kind of darker corner of the internet, this thing that's in the back of your mind that has influenced you, but you didn't really realize it. MLP definitely did that in the foreground. MLP was an explosion of artistic endeavors, learning, and creativity, the likes of which I have never seen in my short life on this planet Earth. But boy, was it huge. Some of the biggest names that you can think of touched hoofs in the Brony fandom. Living Tombstone, Max Mofo Pokemon. There were even things about Joji being there, but hey, there have been so many people. Even Sniper Wolf even clickbaited with MLP back in the day, using Fluttershy oftentimes to emote in some of her texts and whatnot. It was very strange, very weird. Mega Cap probably didn't watch the show, which is why she chose such a shit tier waifu. But MLP was the catalyst for so many people getting into animation, music, character design, just all kinds of different things that they're still doing today. Some of them are professionals doing it. Some of them started being fans of the show, making fan fictions, making just fan art. And now they literally work for the show, or they're drawing the comic for the show, or they're doing the music for the show, or they've just expanded way beyond the fandom. And that's something that's really cool to think about. But it's something I haven't ever seen. While there are channels dedicated to things like Dragon Ball, One Piece, Baki, various shows, and that's all they cover, there hasn't been something as diverse as MLP. Even with a giant powerhouse such as JoJo, the animations are far and few between. When's the last time or ever have you seen a show style and show runtime style of JoJo fan animated? You know, you don't see that of other animations and other shows. It's only really happened in MLP, to my knowledge, and especially to the scale. So while the show may have died in season 3 and just been a corpse shambling around for the next 6 years, it certainly still brought with it some of the most influential people you will ever find on the internet, along for a ride that was pretty enjoyable until it wasn't, and even then we still kept on trucking along. And number 1, Steven Universe. Yes, I know. I'm a Steven Universe fan. If you're a Pony fan, you probably don't like the fact that I am, and Steven Universe fans typically don't like the fact that I'm a Pony fan, but suck it. Steven Universe was an interesting show in the aspect of how it was conceptualized and how it came to be. You wouldn't think Cartoon Network would really allow a show to take so many artistic endeavors and just kind of run with it without getting a return. I'm sure Steven Universe was profitable, but I remember watching the Wanted movie special and being surprised at the just sheer lack of commercial interruptions. They didn't want to sacrifice the flow of the show for monetary gain, and Cartoon Network greenlit that. I don't know how much they're making from plushies or merchandise sales, but it's gotta be a lot. This fandom is pretty big. While they don't have full-length animations like MLP, they certainly do have a lot of animations, a lot of fan art, and they don't really have cons like MLP, but there certainly is a tight-knit group of individuals that gather around because of this show. Voice actors were chosen based upon their singing voices, which is such an interesting take. The show is borderline a musical, and it's really highlighted in some of these songs that come out. The songs that come out are, I dare say, better than MLP's, better than a lot of shows out there. And they take an interesting mix of acoustic and digital artwork with it. You might have a trancey kind of techno-y song, or you might have garage rock. You might have just pure acoustic with nothing but a ukulele. It's such a variety, such a diverse cast of voices, of inspirations, of musical and artistic output. The animation is fluid. The story tackles things that you would think would never be tackled for a teenage or a tween show. Things such as sexual abuse, things such as grief, death, things that are just outright stated even. I always bring this up when I'm talking about the complexity of Steven Universe and just how much it wears it on its sleeve, not trying to necessarily be pseudo-intellectual, but trying to just be realistic. Steven isn't dumb, and he understands that the gyms probably do harbor some hatred for him for being the reason his mom is dead. And this isn't a line that's subtext. I mean, there is subtext about this all throughout the show, but it's explicitly stated when Steven's venting to other people. And it's true, it adds depth to the character, it adds depth to the series, and depth to the storyline. Steven Universe is a show that if you're discounting it because you've heard some strange things about the fans, the only thing I can tell you is you're a cuck, because you're letting other individuals stop you from enjoying something that is honestly one of the best shows to come out from 2010. Now, this may be a little bit later than my generation. I wasn't born in 2005, all right? But it's something that's affected adults and teens alike. And I think it's really is a cross-generational show that has changed what people think of Cal Arts as, because they still consider Steven Universe Cal Arts. And if you do, that's fine. But look at it as one of the best examples of what a Cal Arts show can be, and that an art style, just because you think it's overused, doesn't mean that the story that comes with it is bad. Anyways, I've been going on for like 34 minutes here, alright? So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. As always, I've been Faith the Moliminous. I love your faces, so hope you at least like my video. And if you really adore me, you can support me on Patreon. That helps us pay the editors to sit through 34 minutes of footage and cut it out and make it look cool, and helps me get artists paid and do all kinds of other cool stuff that I want to do. If you want to talk to me, you can do so at the Discord, which is linked down in the description, discord.gg/Moliminous. As always, guys, I'll see you in the next one.